Transportation projects were also on the agenda last night in the State of the Union address by President Obama. Like Governor Patrick in Massachusetts, the president was calling for Congress to support the projects as part of a strategy for economic growth. In response to the speech today, the National Urban League drew attention to the president's goals for education and also in gun control. And with us from the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts is the president and CEO, Darnell Williams. Thank you very much for being with us, Darnell.
Oh, absolutely. I always enjoy coming and being with you and to your listening audience. It's good to see you.
Well, some of these ideas last night, we've heard the president talk about them in versions before, but they've also been coming out of the Urban League.
Absolutely. I think that what we recognize is that the president needs to be applauded, and we encourage the Congress to really stop the blocking or the preventing, because the American people are really depending upon them to really get this and get it right. Since 2008, we have been on the downside of the worst economic downturn in our recent memories. And so when we can ask Congress and the president to really lay out a very bold agenda regarding jobs, putting middle-class Americans back to work, I'll let them fight and deal with the closing of the loopholes, and whether we talk about entitlements or subsidies, that they can figure that out. But if they're going to focus in on jobs and putting middle America back to work, then I'm all for it.
Of all the things the president mentioned, what did you take the most hope in as far as leading to more jobs?
Well, I think the key is that it's on their radar screen. That's to me, that's the single most important item. When something is on your radar screen, that means it's not getting back burner attention. That means that you're going to channel all of the folks that are surrounding the president, that are focused, whether it's the Department of Labor, et cetera, focusing on creating commerce, ways and means from a House and from the Senate side. What kind of incentives do we need to put into place to get behind this plan so that we can put America back to work? I still think that we have millions of folks who've been unemployed for 36 months or more. And when you look in the urban areas, that number is even higher. And so I don't look at it through an Urban League urban lens. I try to look at there are folks who live in urban America, suburban and rural America that are out of a job. And so if the President Obama is putting that front and center, then I think that's good for the nation.
Well, one of the things also is building up the infrastructure, especially all those things that need to be fixed. We have it in Massachusetts, and I imagine there are going to be some people, especially in the Republican Party, who are saying, this is costing money. Can we do it?
Well, I think, when you look at the infrastructure, which means the repairing of bridges, I thought I saw $50 billion that would be earmarked towards that. Now, obviously, that's going to be a narrow bandwidth of people who will actually be working, because those of us who are not working with those kind of companies that repair bridges and roads, we're not going to have a shot at that apple. However, when it comes about spending money, I did hear the president say that none of the proposals that he is presenting is going to cost a dime. So I think that both the president and the Congress have to focus in on making sure that we pay our way and that we're not increasing our indebtedness or exploding the deficit.
What about raising the minimum wage? Democratic presidents tend to like these things. Republicans tend to resist them. And what the Republicans usually say is either it's inflationary or it will kill jobs, especially for people of color.
Well, I think the most important thing that I heard is that if we index the minimum wage to the cost of living, then I believe that will move people out of poverty. What good does it mean for me to be working? I did the math before I came over. At $9 an hour, which is what is being proposed to going to, that's about $18,700 on an annual basis. So if someone is saying to you, whether they're the Tea Party, Republican Party, Democratic Party, that is going to prevent us, then that person needs to have their head examined. Because when you look at the cost of living for a family of four, living on less than $18,000 a year, they need to get over it. Massachusetts, I think, has an $8 per hour, so that means that our numbers would go up even more because we are one of the highest in the nation. So I think that we should do everything that we can to help people at the bottom of the ladder move up. Because when you have executives who are making 40 to 45 times more in pay than the average worker that works for him or her, then I think that we have imbalance. And I think that some of those resources need to be shared.
Well, another parallel between the president's speech and what Governor Patrick wants to do here is expand access to preschool, especially for families of low income. The president sounded pretty ambitious last night about this.
He has a very ambitious agenda. I think coming out, he has really 2 years to really get this off the ground and marketable, because 2 years from now, the focus is going to shift away from President Obama and to who will occupy the White House after that in 2016, I believe it is. And so I think that he has a short window. He appeared to come out the gate with some enthusiasm and a clear marker, and he's laid out his agenda, and I think that we wish him success. But I wish, more importantly, that we have a Congress that irons out their differences and works with this president so that we can move the country forward and put middle America back to work.
Well, of course, another challenge here in that regard is what to do about access to voting. We didn't have the kind of problems in this state that we had in some other states, but some of those other problems look to me very much like partisan constructs too.
Well, no, I think more, from my perspective, it was more voter suppression. That the
more kind of a partisan country.
Okay, so we're saying the same thing. We're just using different words. The key is that we need to. The Voting Rights Act was passed because there were games that people were playing. They called them laws that prevented people from getting to the polls with easy access. We should do everything in our power. I think there were 47 states that had passed voter ID laws. Ohio was turned around. So when we start looking at states that are doing deliberate things to keep certain constituents from voting, then that's a problem, and that is a national problem. So it's not to delve into states' rights versus federal oversight, but when states start to infringe upon the rights of Americans to exercise their right to vote, then the federal government needs to step in and to make sure that there's a level playing field. I'm in favor of same-day registration. I'm in favor that we should be voting on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, not just one day. So they're rolling. So people that work can't get out of work in times of voting, but they can vote on a Sunday after they attend worship services. So the question becomes that what should we be doing as a nation to make it easy for folks to register and to vote, and then for us to be having this mantle that we have the best voting system in the world, and we can go around the world and monitor other people in terms of when they have national elections. Well, who monitors us? The people. And the people are saying that it backfired on the folks who tried to suppress the vote.
As expected, the president did say something about gun control. What did you think of the way that played out last night?
Well, I thought that the chamber responded in a very, very positive sense in terms of the applause. There were some optics behind the president that were a little bit interesting in terms of Speaker Boehner, in terms of his support. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at what happened in Newtown and all of the tragic shooting incidents that have happened across this nation, he referenced Representative Gabby Gifford. He represented Newtown and Aurora. And so he talked about all of them. And I think that the shift and the momentum is that, folks, if you own a gun, nobody's saying for you to take that gun away. But do you need to have automatic weapons and assault weapons while you're in the street? And the answer, we believe collectively, is no. The president is right to take the moral high stand. We have victims right here in Boston who were down in the chamber. And so we applaud the efforts to make sure that we should have a safe environment for children and that we should have better background checks, and we do not need to have assault weapons in the hands of irresponsible people.
Do you think this is going to really lead to dramatic change in the short term? I mean, you have a gun lobby that crystallized over decades as well here. So is this maybe something that's going to take more than even one presidency to really lead to something really very different?
Very, very good question. All we can use is the experiences that we've had and the tragic incidents that have had, and use that as momentum to hopefully move people from their polarized positions of saying, don't touch the Second Amendment and my gun. And that's not what we're saying. All we're saying is that we need to provide a safe haven for our children. We need to make sure I can go to the mall, I can go to a place of amusement or whatever, and not feel that somebody's going to go snap on me or go berserk in my workplace because they didn't like a decision. The former police officers in California. So we see this time and time again. it just saddens me that as a nation that we use violence as a way of communicating and getting notoriety.
The idea also of these universal background checks on guns. I think in Chicago, for 1 year, there were hundreds of guns coming in from Mississippi. I mean, isn't it?
Well, I'm not certain about how many guns came in through Chicago to Mississippi. I think that one of the notions is that many of about 40 to 45% of the guns that are being sold are not being sold through legitimate gun distributors. So really we have to figure out how do we stop those as well of the responsible gun owners. So we got a whole continuum of decisions that we have to make. It's about the guns that are in the hands of these individuals that are causing these heinous crimes and violations against our safety. We need to deal with that. The gun folks that need to be at the table, as well as for the advocates for gun peacefulness or appropriate gun responsibility, we need to be at the table together, not us versus them, but us collectively to deal with this issue.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Hey, it's been great. Always have been.
From the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts, Darnell Williams.